Wow. So not only did you start with product market fit and customers and already value proposition, on top of that, your offering is actually a mandate by the government and by these different verticals.
That's correct.
That's pretty good.
Well,
there must be, for what you do, I mean, there's got to be a lot of competition, right?
Well, I mean, no. I mean, well, let's talk about competition. There's always competition. Years ago, somebody told me, they said, look, Steve, the weather is our competition in sales, right? If it's raining today, nobody's going to come out and buy cars, right? That's your competition. So there is competition. I mean, first and foremost, I mean, if you were to Google insider threat, insider risk, you're going to find, 30, 40 companies out there, all that have this in their title. Exactly. But it's only in the context of cybersecurity. And it's only looking at things sort of in the moment. I like to refer to these solutions, DLP, UEBA solutions, that's what they're called, as smoke detectors. They're fire alarms, right? They're lightning detectors. They're going to tell you that, lightning is striking, that there's a problem happening right now. We're a weather forecasting system, right? Just like the weather agencies build models, the North American model, the European model. What we do is bring in all of this data, allow analysts to build models like a sabotage model or a data exfiltration model, and then see the risk starting to increase over time. And as you see these indicators of risk increasing, you try to get what they call left of boom, or in the financial world, left of theft, right? You try to mitigate the problem. And so that's the real benefit of our approach and our solution. That is the new era, the new wave of this, is to try to be predictive as opposed to reactive. So the competition is really are really these more reactive type of solutions, which work. But look, by the time it goes off, it's too late. I mean, the house is already on fire, right? I'll tell you 3 weeks in advance that someone's in the basement with matches, next to some oily rags. Yeah. Let's go get that guy out of the basement and, throw away the oily rags.
And you also have some impressive partners as well. You're working with Microsoft and others.
We are. Microsoft, found us, quite frankly, a little over a year ago. There's a major trend happening in the world of cybersecurity called ZTA, Zero Trust Architecture. Again, another federally driven mandate. So President Biden, a year and a half ago, issued a mandate that said all government agencies have to refactor their IT infrastructure to support what's called ZTA, Zero Trust Architecture. In the simplest of terms, layman's terms, it says trust nothing, but trust nothing, verify it every step of the way, right? So that, my cell phone, when I'm at home on a trusted network, it has a score of 10. It's totally trustable. Maybe on a public Wi-Fi, it's a 1 or a 2, right? And so there's some things I should be able to get to, some things I shouldn't be able to get to. To do that, you need to have confidence scores, trust scores, risk scores, right? Call it whatever you want to call it. Those scores have to come from somewhere. That's what we do. We produce risk scores and then feed them back to platforms like Microsoft or Google or Amazon. So Microsoft was the first one up to the plate because they're making probably the largest investment of anybody in the industry. And they're quite advanced in terms of what they do. So that's our first partner. But we have a number of others that we're starting to work with as well.
Wow, amazing. So I would think some of the bigger security companies, certainly must be looking at you to partner with or probably even acquire, right?
Yes. I mean, it's everything's for sale, right? At the right price at the right time. And I mean, if you were to handicap RedVector, based on my past performance, everything typically winds up in an acquisition at the end of the day. I did have a train wreck or two along the way, but nobody died. It was all okay. But yeah, no, I mean, I think what look, at the end of the day, this product has wide, appeal, wide, adaptability across industries, across the globe, right? And no matter how much money, if I was to go out and try to raise today, I'm not going to build a 20,000, 25,000 person sales organization, right? Those organizations exist out there. So the question becomes sell with, sell to, sell through. And then, how important is what we have to somebody's, strategy, quite frankly.
Yeah. So from those train wreck experiences, any kind of one or two takeaways or lessons learned?
It's part of this concept that, I'm going to talk about here in a second with respects to market annealing, right? It's really, really easy. And I think all entrepreneurs do this. We get in front of our headlights, right? We're all optimists. We're very optimistic, right? We think everything's going to close in 2 weeks, 2 months, when it's really going to take 2 years or what have you. And so, the one lesson that, I try to enforce upon myself now today is when I look at the forecast, take everything, divide it by 2, and then multiply it by like 0.1. And then you might get to sort of, truth in terms of, of cash flow and where things are going to come in. That's number one. I guess number two, markets change, right? What's here today could be gone tomorrow. And
right.
So, just look at where we are, like all of a sudden out of the middle of nowhere, AI has been around for freaking 10 years, right? I think those of us that have been involved in AI, there's no surprise. Well, for some reason, and okay, maybe it was Chat GPT and it's kind of a cool, magical little thing, right? And, maybe that's what it took to get people going. But now all of a sudden, like CNBC, all they talk about is AI, right? But what is it going to be next week or next month? And so, you've just, don't get fully invested in, flavor of the month.
Yep, totally. So talking about the title topic, getting to 10 million ARR in very early markets. So I would imagine founder-led sales is a big piece.
That is the essence of this. So first of all, there's a wonderful, and we'll put a link. I'll go try to find it. I'm sorry, I should have come with the link, but you can look for this or Google it. It was an article or a blog post that was written by two venture capitalists with Andreessen Horowitz, Martin Casado and Peter Levine. And they put it out about 2 or 3 months ago called Market Annealing, Getting to 10 Million in ARR in These Early Markets. And so they discuss, or they use the analysis or comparison to this process in metallurgy called annealing. It's where you take two metals and you heat them up and you get them sort of, bound together so that they ultimately form, this one piece of metal, right? It's sort of, welding on steroids or soldering on steroids. So there's this process you have to go through to get these two separate things to sort of join. So what I've come to learn in these early stage companies is that is sort of part of that is the role of the CEO. That's the role of the founding team, is to go through this process of taking, your ideas, your intellectual property, your product, and working with the market to ultimately form what becomes both the market and the company. And, now that we've moved to a different model in terms of how we measure success in terms of ARR versus, perpetual license, sort of the magic milepost is that $10 million number, right? That's what investors will tell you. And, that's what, even as the CEO, you get the company to about 10 million in ARR, maybe you've got 30 to 50 people supporting that, and you've got a real business. The thing's going to run, it's going to be self-sustaining. And so one of the keys to that is the founders have to be the lead salespeople. They don't have to be the only salespeople. You still need account executives. You still need business development executives. You need to sell as a team, right? You need to sell as a unit and work with these early stage customers to help them along the way to mold their, problem sets into outcomes that the product delivers. And that's what I'm calling, or that's what these writers actually, I think, so well described in their piece in terms of how do you do that, right? How do you go to market? How do you not take this money that investors put into your company and just sort of willy-nilly spend it with consultants and ad agencies and marketing firms or what have you, right? In the beginning, it's hand-to-hand combat. You have to work with each, opportunity in each account to get those wins.
Yeah, Amazing. And also too, that allows you to kind of tweak the roadmap as well, right? Because you're getting the real-time feedback and then feeding that into the engineering or the product management, product marketing side as well, right?
That's right. That's exactly right. That's the process, because clearly, you go in, you think you know all the answers. I mean, that's part of the entrepreneur, founder, startup sort of thing. Yes, I know what's going to be best, but you also have to train yourself to shut the hell up and listen to the customers, right? I think it should be green, 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 but it's really, imperative that you and that founding team go in and, you can try to, in essence, sell green, but then stop and listen why they kind of want it to be a little more yellow or red, right? And then you go back and you go, yeah, you know what? That's right. I didn't think about that. I didn't see it through that lens.
Yeah. And then kind of once you kind of get out of the gates, you have some sales, you have product market fit, kind of what are your philosophies in terms of scaling on the sales side?
People. I mean, you're the father of a Division I college athlete, right? I mean, he didn't just like walk onto the field one day and say, yeah, I want to play third base or whatever position he plays, right? There's a recruiting process. There's a difference between good talent and great talent, right? You want to look and you have to discipline yourself to only go for the great talent, right? Yep. I mean, it's hard. It takes time. There's that desire. And that's why you have to be careful in terms of who you pick as your investors, because some investors want to come in, just hire 20 people. It's it's an Excel spreadsheet, right? If you hire 20 people, give them $1 million quota, it's a $20 million number. We're going to cut it in half. Okay, you've got to do 10 million this year, right? And it's like, no, it doesn't work that way, right? Let me get two great business development executives that can do 5 million apiece, right?
And you have to make sure they have the kind of right chops for the startup environment as well, right? Because if I take like a Glenn, if I remember right, I think he was at Moody's a long time, big company, Data Robot, good sized company, but then now coming in for something that's really small, if you're not kind of used to doing that type of work where you got to, do everything, right? There's no resources. That's a whole different world, right?
In Glenn's case, he did. I mean, I think he got to Data Robot when they were maybe 100 people. They weren't that big. They were still a startup, right? Yeah. I mean, as I like to say, as part of the questioning process, it's like, oh, by the way, you don't mind staying in Motel 6 or the Best Western, do you? Right? You don't mind sharing a room with me. If we're going to go out on this sales call to St. Louis, we're going to stay at the Best Western and share a room. You're okay with that, right? Now, we don't do that, but you say that to someone that's come from that world, is like, no, excuse me, I'm Platinum Plus with Marriott or Hyatt, and I only stay on the concierge level. You must be crazy, right? And it's like, yeah, I'm not so crazy, but yeah, thanks a lot. Good luck, right? So no, there are those folks that that are comfortable with that, with a more austere environment, I guess is one way to describe it in the beginning. Ultimately, things pick up and, continue to, return to a normal situation. But
but then their side is to go reason to do it. You have obviously it's a great environment, you're hands-on, you get to see everything. But with that risk then comes reward, assuming it works out, correct? That's right.
And so, you find people that, and it's not just the individual, because people have, they have families, they have significant others, right? And so those families and significant others have to pay the price as well, or have to be willing to pay the price up front, right? To know that, maybe we're not eating out as much in the beginning here, right? Right. Yeah, maybe we need to put the tennis club, golf club membership on hold for a year or so, right? I mean, there's a lot of sacrifice, irregardless of what the company is in the beginning, because again, you have to hold on to those dollars until the dollars are flowing in. You got to try to keep them from going out as well.